Hey guys, kisses and love. It's Giova and welcome to my channel. This makeup tutorial was highly requested. And honestly, I had a makeup tutorial recorded and edited, but I didn't like the way I did it. Not the makeup, but the video. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to get this look. This has become like my everyday makeup routine. It is super lightweight and flawless, and it lasts the whole day or the whole night. If you want to know how to get this look, make sure to keep on watching. So we are going to start off with a nice fresh face, and in doing that I'm going to go in with some makeup wipes. I just use these. You can do your normal skincare routine if you'd like. A clean face is always going to give you a clean base. That is literally the secret to it, because if your skin is dirty, all the dirtiness on your face is just going to mix in with the makeup. Once your skin is all nice and clean, you can go in with your moisturizer. I use the Aveeno Calm and Restore Oat Rich Balm because my skin is quite sensitive and dry. And also, shout out to MJ for suggesting this cream for me. Just to add a bit more moisture to my face, I'm going to be using the loveeee Skin Food as another form of moisturizer. I just feel like the constituency and the formula of this moisturizer is so good for a nice, flawless face. Now we're gonna finally jump into primer, and I'm gonna be using the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. I love this primer, as in it has got to be one of the best primers on this planet. Like, it just works so well with foundation and concealer, and it works so well with the loveeee Skin Food that I used previously, because just look at how tacky it is. Like, that's how it should be. For my eyebrows, I use the gummy styling wax just to slick down my eyebrow hairs. And then I'm going to use a clean spoolie to brush through my eyebrows. And then I'm going to use my fingers to really make sure that my hairs are indeed slicked. And then on the top of my brows, I just glide the spoolie across to give it a nice shaped look. And as you can see, it's looking quite good. Do you know that saying that says your eyebrows are not twin sisters, but they are just sisters or cousins or something? Well, that's the case for me, because I don't know why the other eyebrow is higher than the other. So let's fill in my eyebrows. I just use this Essence eye pencil in the shade Hot Chocolate, and I just use that at the ends of my eyebrows. I don't like using a darker color because I don't like having darker eyebrows when I have bright colored hair. But it's up to you if you'd like to use a darker color or not. To reduce that shine on my eyebrows, I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless powder in the shade 250 Sun Beige. I only use a little bit, and I use a fluffy brush just so that it's not too much. Then I just clean around my eyebrows to make sure it's clean. So I use the LA Girl Pro Concealer in the shade Espresso to carve out the bottom and top of my eyebrows. I use this shade because it is closest to my skin tone, and I no longer like using a bright concealer to carve out underneath my eyebrows. I just feel like it's a lot more cleaner and it's more easier to work with than using a brighter concealer. But if you don't have a concealer that's closest to your skin tone, definitely go ahead and use your own foundation. You can mix your own concealer, just a small bit, if you really want that high coverage. So now it's time for foundation. I use the NARS Longwear Radiant Foundation in the shade New Caledonia. Pause. Disclaimer. All of my makeup brushes are really dirty, so let's ignore all of that. So as you just saw, I put 4 pumps at the back of my hand, and I do this so that I know how much foundation I'm putting. And I dab my foundation brush at the back of my hand, and that's what I put all over my face. Now, most of my foundation brushes are unbranded, so the ones I do know I will be saying, and the one I'm using now is a Wet n Wild foundation brush. This is optional, but I just like going in with a beauty blender just to dab all over my face and to make sure that my foundation is really into my skin and it's all blended and flawless. The curve case made by Mitchell has to be like one of my favorite products I've ever bought. It is definitely worth the investment. The palette is in the shade Deep, and I use Chocolate Charm and Shade and Laid as a contour shade. The brush I'm using for my contour is the Wet n Wild contour brush, and I really like it just because of how angled it is. And where I place the contour is actually my natural contour line, and I blend that upwards. When you are contouring your face, you need to contour it according to your face shape. Then to blend everything together, I go back in with my foundation brush. With that same palette, I use the shade Cherry Cola as my cream blush, and the brush I'm using is the Real Techniques foundation brush. I use this brush for my blush because I feel like it just blends it out a lot better. To add a bit more pink, I go back in and I use the shade Cowlick and I place that on top of Cherry Cola. And the reason why I do this is because I want the blush to still be subtle and still be bright, but not too bright. Next up is concealers, and I use two different types of concealers. I use the Too Faced Born This Way in the shade Butterscotch, and I also use the NARS Longwear Radiant Concealer in the shade Sorque de Orge. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but the shade is up in the screen. One thing about makeup is that how you place your contour, your concealers, and even your eyeshadows, they are all based off of your eye shape and your face shape. So I just place my contour and my concealer like this because I just have a round face and this just works best for my face shape. To contour my nose, I'm going back in with that same contour shade, Chocolate Charm, and I start off by adding two curved lines at the bottom of my nose, and I also add curved lines coming from the front part of my eyebrows because realistically that is where the shadow is casted. Because I like a button nose, I added a curve on top of the tip of my nose. In order to get full coverage from your concealer, you need to set your face. I'm using the Airbrush Setting Spray by Charlotte Tilbury. And then I'm gonna allow this to just dry. Hold on, are you subscribed yet? Go and subscribe for me. Thank you very much. Mwah. Once my face is dry, I go in with my Real Techniques brightening concealer brush. I'm just not a fan of using a beauty blender to blend up my concealers because I feel like it takes away the pigment and it just doesn't give me a nice finish. I am very light-handed when it comes to blending my concealers with this brush because I don't want the product to separate on my face. And I always go back in with my foundation brush with no added foundation and I just blend everything together so that there's no harsh lines. I know on TikTok I've seen people using a powder puff to blend out their concealers, and honestly I just can't get with it. I don't know, I just feel like it doesn't do the job for me as a brush. But regardless of what tool you use to blend out your concealer, just make sure that it's looking flawless at the end. I use my foundation brush again to blend out that concealer underneath my contour line just because my concealer brush has a lot of concealer and I don't want that place to be brightened. I'm just blending everything together with my foundation brush just so everything is smooth and flawless, and I'm also going to go back in with my blush brush just to bring back that pink. To blend underneath my eyes, I start off by blending the outer corner first. The reason for this is because the outer corner does not have that much product compared to the inner corner. And it's a lot more easier to blend the outer corner with little product to the blush. Then once the outer corner is blended enough, I begin to start the inner corner. And you will see that I begin to just pat in one spot rather than dragging the whole concealer outwards. I do occasionally go out a little bit just to add a little bit more product to the outer corner because, as I said, there's not that much product, and that is why it's important to not start in the inner corner first, because that way you just have more control of how much concealer is going everywhere. A tip is that you need to make sure that you're looking upwards rather than downwards because that way you can get all your creases. I go up and down the side of my nose with the brush because I'm trying my hardest not to actually touch my nose contour because I will get into that in a second. Without adding extra product onto my concealer brush, I just use whatever's left and I use that to prime my eyelids for my eyeshadow. To blend out my nose contour, I am using the Real Technique Deluxe Crease Brush, and when it comes to my nose contour, I love to just take my time because, as you can see, it does look quite messy. It just looks like a blob in the middle of my face, but that is why I go back in with my concealer brush to bring that concealer that's on the side of my nose a little bit more closer and to get that narrow nose effect. And this can actually take time depending on what nose shape you are trying to go for, but as you can see, it's looking so snatched already, and that is just because I took my dear time to get to the desired nose shape. I actually don't normally put concealer on the bridge of my nose, but for the sake of this video I decided to. I don't really think it's necessary, but I still did it anyways, and I go back in with my contour brush just to bring back that contour a little bit. We are about to get into my powders, and I just begin to prep my eyes again just to make sure everything is blended and all the creases are covered in concealer. I'm going back in with that Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless powder that I used earlier, and I'm just using that to set all over my face where I placed that concealer. And the beauty blender I'm using is the Real Techniques beauty blender. The reason why I start off with this powder first before I go into my baking is that this powder already gives like a flawless smooth finish compared to just jumping straight in and using a setting powder. I also find that putting this pressed powder around my smile lines really helps to prevent the smile lines from coming up later on. After I'm done with that, I go in with my Huda Beauty loose baking powder in the shade Blondie, and I'm just going to begin to bake. And what I do is I press the powder into my skin, and I'm still using the exact same beauty blender. I don't put any of the Maybelline powder underneath my contour line. I only just use the Huda Beauty. For my bronzer, I'm using the Juvia's Place bronze palette in the shade Dark, and I mix the two colors together to get that nice perfect shade for myself. I recommend using a small yet dense brush to do your bronzer because I found that in the past when I used a bigger brush, the bronzer would go everywhere and it would also take away the blush. When it's time to do my forehead, I actually pack a lot on because I try to conceal that line from my scalp to my skin. Next up is blush, and I'm using the Makeup Revolution Reloaded New Trials 2 palette. And I basically just use all the pink that you see me pointing at because, I don't know, I just like to use the whole 4. I haven't forgotten about the powders that I put on my face, so I'm going in with this big fluffy brush to just dust off all of the excess powder from underneath my contour line, underneath my eyes, literally everywhere that I put the powder previously. Oh, I forgot to mention that I'm dipping this brush into the Maybelline Fit Me powder again, and I use the Maybelline Fit Me powder to dust off the excess of the Huda Beauty powder. I also use this brush to blend out all of my powders so that there's no harsh lines and that everything is blended and everything is flawless. So now I'm moving on to my eyes, and I'm going to be using the Morphe Dare to Create palette, and I'm going to be using some of the browns to create more depth at the front of my eyebrows and the beginning of the bridge of my nose. This is like one of the favorite things I love to do in my makeup because this just adds more definition. And how I do this is I just go in circular motion just in that area, and as you can see, it's already adding definition to my nose. I think this brush is from the Jess Up collection, but it's like a big and dense eyeshadow blending brush, I think, and this just works so well for this type of task. As you can see, I'm also blending that brown up into my eyebrows, and this is just to make it look very natural. With the same brush and with the same eyeshadow, I am connecting that to like my eye sockets to define my eye shape. To add a bit of pizzazz to my eyes, I wing out the eyeshadow to kind of give me like a lifted, you know, siren, sultry type of look. You know what I mean? Anyways, with a more smaller but still dense eyeshadow brush, I'm using the exact same brown to add a bit of shadow underneath my nose. And I'm gonna connect those two together. So I'm gonna connect the bottom of my nose to the shadows on top of my nose. With a darker brown, I add like a little budding shape to like the tip of my nose. So to clean up the sides of my nose, I'm going back in with that Maybelline Fit Me powder, and I add a lot onto my sponge, and I just go up and down the sides of my nose just to clean up that contour. And then I go back in with that fluffy brush and I just dust it off. And because I take my nose contour very seriously, I like to go back in and just perfect it, you know, make sure my nose is looking snatched, make sure it's looking cute, make sure it's looking good. I'm gonna go back to my eyeshadow, and I'm gonna be using the Makeup Revolution Reloaded Velvet Rose palette, and this tan shade, it matches like the powder and underneath my eyes, and I just apply that to my lid. This brush is just a flat fluffy brush, and what I do is I create like almost like a cut crease with it, and it just gives that nice cut crease look, and I fan that out towards the end. And just to define that nice cut crease, I'm going back in with one of the other brushes, and I'm just gonna define that cut crease line. And I'm not done adding pizzazz to my eyes, so I'm gonna go in with that exact same palette. I'm gonna get the shimmer shades, and with that exact same flat brush, I'm just gonna apply that to my lids, just a little bit. That is enough to sparkle, but it's not too much. Okay, so this next step was so unnecessary. I don't know what I was doing. I never do this. So let's just pretend I didn't do that. I eventually just fanned it out with a brush because, yeah, I don't know. Like, you know when you're doing your makeup and you begin to like experiment? This was one of them, because this was so unnecessary because there was going to be eyeliner there anyways. I'm gonna go in with my mascara. This one I just got from Penny's / Primark, but I add that to my eyes, and honestly this was like a look by itself, but I just love to add in some eyelashes. I'm gonna use the Makeup Revolution. This is like a two-sided eyeliner pencil. Like one has an eyeliner, like a pencil pomade eyeliner, and then the other one has a liquid pen. So I just use the eyeliner pencil for my waterline and then the pen for my inner corners to do that nice, I don't know what this is called, like a cat eye, but just in my inner corner. This is quite hard to do. I'm still learning how to do a nice subtle one rather than one that is quite obvious. So it is quite hard, so do it at your own risk. So I'm almost done. So now I'm just gonna spray my face again with that Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. I'm just gonna let it dry and just admire my work because y'all, this was a good makeup look. And with my Real Technique beauty blender, I'm just gonna pat around my face just to make sure it's all good. Now going in for highlighter. It's the exact same shimmer shade that I used from that Makeup Revolution palette. I'm just gonna add it to the bridge of my nose, the tip of my nose, and my brow bone, and my cheeks. To prep myself for my lip combo, I'm just gonna go in with some makeup wipes and just clean around my lips to make sure it's clean. And once again, I'm just going back in with my big fluffy brush to just blend every single thing together. Now I'm going in with my lashes, and I just use some lash glue. I think this is like the duo lash glue. And I just apply that to my lash line, and I also apply some to my actual lashes. So with that exact same brown eye pencil that I used previously, I use that to overline my lips because I don't have a lip pencil. I love having an overlined lip. I don't care what anyone says. It looks good all the time. When it comes to lip combos, I'm not the best at it because I don't have that much lip stuff. But I'm going to go in with the NYX Butter Gloss, and this is in the shade Lava Cake. And I just overline my lips again over that eye pencil that I used. I'm taking another NYX Butter Gloss, and this is in the shade Ginger Snap, and then I'm going to use another NYX Butter Gloss in the shade Fortune Cookie. Soften up the mess, drop it in the water, let the daughter find an image with the rest. She'll be learning how to breathe, spinning through identity, reveal another pretty little scheme. Save her mind, hold her hand. I added the Fenty lip gloss in the shade Hot Chocolate, and I went back again with Fortune Cookie just to bring that bright inner lip out. Teach her how to jump and how to stretch when she reach like the angels do, and you gon' make it through now. I literally forgot that I had eyelash glue on my eye, so let's go and get my eyelashes out. These are from Shein, link is down below. I actually stacked mine, so it's literally just 2 lashes just to get a fuller look. And don't forget to clean your jewelry, your nose piercings, and your earrings. And ladies, And maybe gents, we are now done. We got to this. Don't forget to follow me on all of my socials, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell button while you're at it, because I am coming out with a little makeup series on YouTube where I am going to be recreating makeup looks from your favorite MUAs. So if that's something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button and the bell button so you will be the first one notified when I drop it. Anyways guys, kisses and love, I'm out.